Om Dhyau Shantihi, Antariksham Shantihi, Prithvi Shantihi, Apa Shantihi, Oshadaya Shantihi, Vanaspataya Shantihi, Vishvedeva Shantihi, Brahma Shantihi, Sarvam Shantihi, Shantireva Shantihi, Sama Shantiredhi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May there be peace in the heavens. May there be peace in the sky. May there be peace in the waters. May there be peace on earth. May the herbs and trees be filled with peace. May the peace of Brahman be manifest in all divine forms. And may that peace be ours. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us all. Good morning. Happy extra hour of sleep. I think we have a fine you would like to take kids to Sunday school, if you're interested. She's right up. We have two adorable girls up here. This is the day that you'd like to have Sunday school, instead of being up here. So Swami Satyamananda was originally scheduled to give this talk today, and then they changed the Kali immersion down in Balboa, and they said, oh, so we need you to talk. So, okay, I thought, well, what am I going to talk about? Because I'm speaking again in 2 weeks. And I thought, oh, well, you know, I've been hearing a lot of misconceptions about Vedanta, and I thought it would really be fun to give a talk on misconceptions. Conceptions, what's the right and what are the often misunderstood things about Vedanta. I think that would be at least to be fun for me, and if you have to endure it, I'm sorry. But anyway, I thought, first of all, you could all repeat it with me. What are we not? We are not Buddhist. No. Okay, you know that. Sign on the outside. This is not a Buddhist temple. We love Buddha. We love Buddhism, but we're not Buddhist. That's it. People will say, well, this is such a great Buddhist temple. It's not a Buddhist temple. It's not Chinese. It's not Japanese. The temple itself is built after Shankaracharya's temple in Kaladi, India. It's South Indian wooden temple. So it's very typical of that wooden structure that they use in Kerala. It's not a Buddhist temple. Okay, so what are we if we're not Buddhist? We're actually Hindu. Surprise! When you bring your date here, don't tell them you're coming to a Hindu temple. So if you look up there on that altar, you're going to see very typical articles for a Hindu puja. This proves we are Hindu. We have puja here every day. We have arati at night. Those are very typical things that you have for a Hindu puja. So then what is Vedanta? Vedanta comes from Vedas, the oldest scriptures in the world, scriptures of India, plus Anta, the end of or the goal of the Vedas. What's the goal of the Vedas? The goal of the Vedas. The Veda actually comes from the verb root vid, to know ourselves, to have knowledge of God, knowledge of the divine. That is the goal of Vedanta. To know that divinity in our own hearts, to recognize that divinity is the same divinity that pervades the universe and is in the heart of every being that we encounter. That is the goal of Vedanta. Not to go around again and again and again on this merry-go-round of birth, death, rebirth, but to live in total freedom, to have awareness of our own divinity. That is the goal. Swami Vivekananda said religion does not consist in doctrines and in dogmas. It's not what you read or what you believe in. The end of all religions is realizing the soul, realizing God within the soul. That is the goal of all religions. The realizing of God in our own soul. That is real religion, and that is the point of Vedanta. So another common misconception about Vedanta is that we're a one-off here. This is such a beautiful temple nestled here in the hills of Montecito. Isn't it pretty? And that's where it begins and ends. But no, we are a very tiny tiny, tiny part of a huge worldwide movement of an organization called the Ramakrishna Mat and Mission. Mat means monastery. Mission is the social service work that we do. Otherwise known as the Ramakrishna Order. We're a very tiny part of that order. We have our headquarters are in Bellarmont, which is outside Calcutta. I'm not kidding. It's across the river from Calcutta, called Bellarmont. That's our headquarters. In India, we have 214 official centers and hundreds of unofficial centers. Our order is the most respected monastic organization in India. It's also one of the largest social service organizations, and we've been doing social service in India since 1895, when it was unthinkable for a monk to touch and help anybody else. Because if the world is unreal, why are you going to deal with it? Why are you going to help someone take them to or take care of them? Our organization has a huge number of educational facilities, of hospitals, we do a huge amount of social programs. We have every disaster in India, we are there. We're well known for being there. We put in toilets everywhere. This is the type of work we do. In India, just in India alone, we have 1,200 educational facilities, from K through PhD level. We have vocational schools. We have schools for the blind. We have every sort of possible service that you can imagine. In times of riot, in times of flood, the Ramakrishna Order is there. No matter to what religion people belong, we serve people equally, and that's why it's so respected in India. So when people think Vedanta Society, they think of our cute little temple. It's a very different idea you get in India, where it's largely seen as a social service organization, and they're respected because the monks do such great work, and also because of our financial transparency. All the donations that we're given go out on a blackboard in front of our headquarters where exactly every single penny went. It's really inspiring to see. And outside India, we have 214 Ramakrishna orders outside India, and they're everywhere. There are 4 in Brazil, for example, in Argentina. There are 2 in Russia, and we're talking about one in Russian-born Swamis there. We have Ireland, we have England, France, Germany. We have centers all over the place. So it isn't just this place. In this country, we have 14 official Ramakrishna centers or Vedanta societies. And of those, for example, we're only part of one. We're a fourth of the Hollywood Center. Hollywood Center is the official center. There are sub-centers, which are Santa Barbara, Hollywood, Trabuco, San Diego, Pasadena, 5. We're 1/5. So if you go to India, they'll say, oh, you're from Hollywood. It's like, I'm actually Santa Barbara. They don't know Santa Barbara. They know Santa Barbara. They know Hollywood Center. So that doesn't even count our unofficial centers in this country. The Hollywood Center has at least 10 unofficial centers under them. By unofficial, that means we don't have Swamis regularly posted there. So we're talking Washington, D.C., Ridgely, New York, Atlanta, New Jersey, Houston, Dallas, Austin, Phoenix, Tucson, Las Vegas, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And you'll see some of us going back and forth. Krishna Pran's going to be going to Pittsburgh soon because we have a center there. So this is, you from seeing this work here, you don't really understand how incredibly widespread these ideas are, not only in this country, but really around the world. And when you go to India and you see the work that they do there, it's so inspiring. It's so elevating to see people working so hard to serve other people without thought of recompense, without thought of a thank you, just because it's their privilege for them to serve you as an embodiment of the divine. That really changes your life. It really changes your vision of what Vedanta is. I spent some good time in the hospital in India, and it's very interesting to be a patient in one of these hospitals, where you're not treated as a problem that they have to solve, but an embodiment of divinity that it's their privilege to serve. Whole different way of healing. Whole different way of dealing with a doctor-patient relationship. It's really very lovely, especially when you see the nurses just as sick as you are and they're working themselves to death, and you feel like, oh no, I could work with 103 fever. I know I can. It's like they don't even think about it. It's their privilege. So Vedanta is Veda. Vedas plus Santa. So let me spend a little time in the Vedas. Bear with me. You might think it's TMI. If your eyes glaze over, I'm going to notice. But the Vedas are, people say, have you read the Vedas? It's like, honey, no one's read the Vedas. Promise you that. Okay. So the Vedas are thousands and thousands of years old. They've been, for the largest part of their history, they were transmitted orally. From father to son, from father to son, from father to son in Brahman families, which is why the Brahmins were revered so much, because they were a repository of spiritual knowledge. It wasn't because they were on the top of the social heap. They were the poorest. They weren't allowed to have a lot of possessions and money. It was wrong for them. But they had wisdom. They had knowledge. They were the repository of this knowledge, which boys started memorizing this from the time they were toddlers, to know an entire section of the Vedas by memory, with every pronunciation correct, every syllable intact, long marks, short marks, everything there perfectly, because that would be transmitted. And these have been transmitted across the millennia. They were not written down for a very, very, very long time. And it wasn't until the great sage Vyasa came that he decided that it would be a good idea to kind of organize these and sort of put them into, compile them. Because imagine hundreds of families, all these have different strands of knowledge, but it's like this big, without organization. He compiled them. So he compiled them into the 4 Vedas that we now know as the Rig Veda, the Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, and the Atharva Veda. Bear with me. These were then subdivided again into 4. The first part is the Samhitas, where it's divided into, where it was the mantras, the hymns, and the prayers. The second part was the Brahmanas, coming from the word Brahma, Brahman, those priests. They are the priestly texts. They are commentaries on these hymns, on these mantras. The third part is the Aranyaka, coming from the word Aranya, forest. These are the forest texts of the hermits. And these are sort of the inner interpretation of all these rituals. And finally, the fourth part, the Upanishads, and these are the things that we're the most familiar with here. We had a class yesterday, for example, on the Katha Upanishad. And these Upanishads are literally at the end of the Vedas, number 4 on our line here. They deal with the knowledge of Brahman, the ultimate knowledge of reality. For example, yesterday in the Katha Upanishad, we were hearing Nachiketa going to the king of death and saying, I want to know the truth. I want to know the truth of existence. What happens when a person dies? What within us is eternal? This is what the Upanishads deal with. So you can imagine all these hundreds and hundreds of families, and what happened? Well, families die out really. It's not hard to die in India. So these entire branches became extinct. All these different portions of the Vedas became extinct. Swami Vivekananda said the Sama Veda had 1,000 branches, and now there are 5 or 6. The Rig Veda had 108 portions. Only, how many remains? One remains of the entire Rig Veda. So you can imagine how much was lost. So what we have now is only sort of a scant version, but we have, especially in the knowledge portion, is very, very, or the Upanishads, is extremely powerful. Now, these Vedas are revered not just because they're incredibly old, but most important because they were revelation of the sages. They weren't like their beliefs. These were their direct spiritual experiences of the highest reality, indicating the divinity within them was the same divinity that pervades the world. Not only that, these experiences were available to everybody, and they were replicable. That every experience these sages have had are available to us at all times. If we put in the same effort and the same sincerity, we too can have these experiences, which is why these are so profoundly revered, the Vedas. Swami Vivek, you hear me quoting him a lot. I can't help it. He says it better than anybody. He was Ramakrishna's great disciple. He said, the Hindus have received their religion through revelation, the Vedas. But by the Vedas, no books are meant. Oh, really? Okay. Well, no wonder I can't read the Vedas. He said, the Vedas mean the accumulated treasury of spiritual laws discovered by different persons at different times. Just as the law of gravitation would exist were it discovered or not, so these spiritual laws will always exist, and they govern the spiritual world. So we didn't need Isaac Newton to tell us that gravity existed. It's the same way the Vedas. Those truths are available to us all the time. Which is why when I see the 300-page paperback penguin edition of the Vedas edited by Wendy Doniger, I just roll my eyes. It's like, do not bother. It's such a bad book. Don't bother. So, this is you might think this is like TMI in the Vedas, but it's important. And the most important part is that these are revelations. And they're divine revelations available for us. No one's asking you to believe in the Vedas. Experience that truth yourself. This is what Vedanta has to say. It's not for Vyasa to say, you need to do that. It's our experience. It's our birthright as human beings to have these experiences because they are very nature. They are who we are. We think we're something or somebody else. This is who we are. And this is what is revealed in the Vedas, in the Upanishads. So what as Americans, we're going to like this the best. This is the best part. What I like the most about the Vedas is the Vedas said, you don't need the Vedas. Vedas are the only scripture in the world that say the Vedas are secondary. The most important thing is your experience. It's the knowledge of the self. It's self-knowledge. Knowledge of the divine is really the only thing that counts. So above all, Vedanta is not a couch potato spirituality. It's not sitting in a corner and going, I'm consciousness. So what? No one cares. Has it changed your life? Not much. What matters is how we transform our life. Genuine spiritual life isn't reading books. It's not watching YouTubes. It's an inner transformation of our life where we recognize and realize the divinity within ourselves. That is what genuine spirituality is. That's the only thing that real spirituality is. A genuine transformation within ourselves. That's the only thing that counts. Now, our look at the Vedas kind of helps us understand why there are various meanings of the word Vedanta, because there are. Because many things within the Hindu tradition have various meanings, which is either liberating or confusing or both. But like many things in the Hindu tradition, it's multivalent. It has various meanings. So one prominent meaning of Vedanta, it is the underpinning, the underlying truth within all the Hindu traditions. So in this sense, the word Vedanta simply means the Hindu tradition. It means Hinduism. It's identical with Hinduism. So there are other ways. Now, why can we say this? Because when we talk about dualism or Dvaita, Dvaita is part of Vedanta. Qualified non-dualism is also part of Vedanta. Advaita or non-dualistic Vedanta is also part of Vedanta. They all fit under this really big umbrella called Vedanta. So dualism, which is promulgated by Madhva, says, I am one being, God is another. Two. There's always two. It's Dvaita. Dvaita from the word two. Dva. Second one, qualified non-dualism or Vishishtadvaita. There is multiplicity. It says that yes, there is Brahman, but there is multiplicity. I am a part of God. That also is a part of Vedanta. That's a valid viewpoint within Vedanta. Final one, which we hear a lot. Advaita, non-dualism or monism. There is no multiplicity. The multiplicity is an illusion. There is nothing but the divine. I am one with that infinite divine being. So that is, again, a part of Vedanta. So another meaning of the word Vedanta is it's one of the 6 schools of Hindu philosophy. Okay, I'm getting glaze. Okay, wake up. Okay, there are 6 schools in Orthodox Hinduism. By Orthodox, I mean those who accept the Vedas as their background. Nyaya, Sankhya, Mimamsa, Yoga, Vaisheshika, and Vedanta, right? What do we mean of Vedanta in this context? We mean it as the end of the Vedas. We mean it as the Upanishads. We mean it as that non-dual philosophy of the oneness of existence. Now, one common misconception is that Vedanta simply means Advaita Vedanta and nothing else. But that's not true. There are various meanings of the word Vedanta. So, when we talk about Advaita, we talk about the worship of in Advaita, I worship God. In Vishishta Advaita, I worship God. I am a part of God. The third one, I am the divine. My ideal is this impersonal divine reality, or Brahman, or I am infinite consciousness. That would be a very typical Advaita. I am infinite consciousness, infinite being, infinite joy. Now, one of our most popular speakers is, as you know, Swami Sarvapriyananda, who has a lot of YouTube videos out there, and he speaks almost entirely on Advaita Vedanta. Now, one of my many email addresses is info@vedanta.org, and I get a lot of mail because they think for some reason I'm Swami Sarvapriyananda. So I get a lot of things about, but if Brahman is infinite consciousness, then it's like, oh, you're asking the wrong person. And he doesn't answer email, I'll tell you that. So, and one of the many misconceptions about this Advaita Vedanta is, I am pure consciousness, so I just have to be. It's like, good luck with that. It hasn't changed you so far, and I don't see anything happening in the future. You gotta have more than just be. Because if we say, I am pure consciousness, that's great. But if it's in your head only, it's not going to go very far. There has to be more than something than this intellectual couch potato stuff. It has to be more than an intellectual concept. It has to be something that we put into practice. In order to go from our head to our heart, where it really changes our life, we need spiritual practice. It isn't enough to watch a YouTube video. It isn't enough to sit on a couch and say, I am being. Well, you were being before the video, and you're going to be whether you like to or not. So how do we transform our lives? It's great if we can watch this, or we can read these things, and we get inspired. If we get inspired to do something. If we get inspired to do spiritual practice. If we get inspired to change our attitude. But that ain't so easy. How many billions of lives have we had believing that we're a body and a mind? Most of them have been knee-jerk reaction, I'm a body and a mind. How to get out of that knee-jerk reaction takes a lot of time and a lot of work. You can't do it through one YouTube video. It takes sadhana, spiritual practice. So for it to go from our mind, the brain, intellectual ideas, which is a good place to start, but it's not a good place to end, has to be through spiritual practice. We have to have sadhana, which is why we believe that having a guru is so important. He directs you in your spiritual practice. So if you go off the rails, which is really easy, he's there to say, that might not be such a good idea for you. Might think about going around in this direction, which is actually the way your mind seems to be working. He works with your temperament. That's why it's so important. Now, but let's go back to our strands of Vedanta, just to make things a little more invigorating. Swami Vivekananda used Vedanta in an entirely different way when he spoke to Western audiences. And in that way, he had Vedanta as sort of the basis of all religion, sort of the principle upon which every religion is founded. Not just Hinduism, but every religion. These great principles on which every religion has its resting place, in which religion is with a capital R. He said, there was never my religion or yours, my national religion or your national religion. There was only the one. One infinite religion existed throughout eternity, and that will ever exist. And this religion is expressing itself in various countries and in various ways through different people. So this kind of goes back to our original idea about what Vedanta is. It's from the word vid, knowledge, realization. It's about realization, not doctrines and dogmas and what you believe and what you've just seen. Another misconception about Vedanta that really galls me, okay, now you know how I really feel, is that Vedanta is somehow syncretic. That is, it's a synthesis of various religions. Just because we love and respect all religions doesn't mean that Vedanta is a pizza. It's not a make-your-own pizza. It's not a cafeteria religion. For one, I was in the bookstore. I was working in the back. And one of our wonderful volunteers, who was really kind and donated a lot of her time here, I was in the back working on the computer. This person comes up and says, "Tell me about Vedanta." She said, "Well, Vedanta is kind of, part of it is like we have Hindu ideas, we have Buddhist ideas, we have Islamic ideas, we have Christian ideas." And I was like, "No, stop, don't do that." That is, we don't do make your own pizza religion. For one thing, the Vedas are thousands of years older than any of these religions. Moreover, we don't believe in a make-your-own-pizza religion. It's really important to love and respect every religion, but practice your own. You don't do a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of that, because traditions are important. Traditions are developed over 1,000 years, and they built up strength within that tradition. These are powerful strengths built up through the lives of saints and sages of every religious tradition. You want to use the strength within your own tradition and love and respect and appreciate them all, knowing that we're all going to the same goal. We all will have the same realization. Sri Ramakrishna said, if you want to get water, you don't dig a bunch of shallow wells. You dig one well really deep until you get water. Then when you get water, you realize that we're all drinking the same water. We call the water by different names, whether it be Pan or Jol or Pani or water. But we're all being nourished by that same water. But we won't get anywhere if we're just here and here and here and here. Dive into our own tradition very deep, and then we'll see. And love and respect and appreciate every religion, but don't try to practice them all. It'll just be a mishmash. Vedanta is not a mishmash. Okay, end of my rant. Okay, so Vedanta says that the realization of God, the realization of our divine nature is the goal of life. How come I don't feel so divine? How come I don't see you as divine? Well, Vedanta says it's through the power of Maya. And this is one of the great misconceptions about Vedanta, because they often say Maya is an illusion, but that is problematic. As Swami Vivekananda said, Maya is real, and yet it's not real. Oh, that helps. That really clarifies things, doesn't it? Thank you, Swamiji. But what matters is Maya is real to the extent that what is real, which is Brahman, gives Maya the appearance of reality. Okay, what is real? Brahman, the infinite divine existence, that's eternal, unchanging, the root of everything that exists. Everything that we see, perceive, encounter is Brahman. We never do not experience Brahman, but we see the world. We see multiplicity. Maya of itself has no independent existence. It exists because of what is real, which is Brahman. We see nothing but Brahman all the time, but we mistakenly see name and form. Male, female, white, black, young, old. We see name, form, what I want, what I don't want, what I desire, what I don't desire, what I need, what I don't need. It's all encumbered by the ego. We don't see Brahman. We see multiplicity. We see everything in terms of the ego. Sri Ramakrishna said Maya is, simply put, the ego. Our ego puts a veil over our eyes. So it's like we're trying to see reality through a pinhole. Because everything is distorted like a funhouse mirror with the ego. Because we can't see things as they are. Because it's distorted by our desires. I want, I don't want. This person is good, this person is bad. This person's Democrat, Republican, white, black. This person I don't want near me. I want this person with me. We are so, our mirror is so distorted, we don't see reality as it is. We see nothing but Brahman, but we don't know it. Shankara used the very famous example of the rope and the snake, and I would let you get a knee-jerk, don't bring that up again, but I'm gonna anyway. We got to hear about the rope and the snake. Okay, we see a rope in the dark, we react. We say it's a snake. Around here, you really do see snakes. And so you think your heart starts to palpitate. And then you realize, oh, it's a rope. The rope was there the whole time. The rope gives our idea of the snake its reality. The snake was in my mind, not in that thing down there. Maya is in here. It's not out there. Swami Vivekananda said, before we see anything, we see Brahman first. To see a wall, I first see Brahman, then the wall. He said Brahman is the eternal subject. What does that mean? I was like, what does that mean? If we see nothing but Brahman, so everything that we see is Brahman. I see Brahman, then I see Ava. I see Brahman, then I see Leanne. I see Brahman, then I see everybody here. But it goes so fast, I don't realize that I'm seeing this infinite divine reality at all times. I mistakenly put on these little masks of name and form. And that's what distorts us. What are the other things of Maya? Sri Ramakrishna said, Maya is nothing but kamadi-kanchan, lust and greed. Well, those are the kingpins of desire. Talking about desire, usually it's going to be lust and greed of some form or the other. Those are the big things that take our mind away from the divine. Lust, greed, in one form or the other. So that pulls our mind away from the divine. When we change our vision, we'll understand that we've seen nothing. When we do our work, we'll see we saw nothing but Brahman the whole time, but instead I saw this. But it's our desires that create this distorted world at all times. The problem with desire is that it is only desire that makes us act. And this desire is at the root of karma. Oh yeah, we got to talk about that. But before we do that, why do I think it's so important to talk about Maya this way? Because if we just think of Maya as an illusion, then we'll say, well, if it's all unreal, then I can do what I want. I've heard that argument, believe me. I don't have to change anything. I can do what I want because it's all illusion. Or, and India's famous for having this happen. This is one reason why India has had such problems, is that if all this is an illusion, then I don't have to do anything. I don't have to deal with the sufferings of others because they're not real. I don't have to make sure the planet is safe for my children or my grandchildren's generation because it's unreal. The world's unreal, right? No. If you think this is unreal, then sure. But if you think you're unreal and you say this isn't, but you are, that's hypocrisy. If we see this individuality of mine as real, we better see the rest as real too. What it means is that Brahman is real because the eternal, unchanging. What does it mean when we say Brahman is real, the world is unreal? Shankaracharya very famously said, Brahman Sat Jagat Mithya. What is the world? Brahman is real, the world is unreal. What is his word for the world? Jagat. Jagat. Jago. Changing. The world by its very nature is eternally changing. Nothing is stable. Nothing stays the same. Brahman is eternal. So the reality is that which is unchanging, Brahman, and that which is continually changing gets its reality from this one area, this one only thing in this entire universe that's stable, Brahman, the eternal reality. Its very nature is everlasting. So I was talking a bit about desire and the problematics of desire. We see everything in a distorted way because the ego, which is desire. It is desire that makes us act, which is the word karma. Another very frequently misunderstood idea in Vedanta is the idea of karma. I think if we were to choose one term that is misunderstood the most, it's the word karma, because it's used everywhere. I went to Costco, and I realized that I'd come back with laundry detergent that they hadn't charged me for. So the next week I went back and I said, I got a big bottle of all clear and free detergent and you didn't charge me for it. Can you charge me now? And he said, it's this really young Hispanic kid. He was so sweet. He was about 3 feet tall. And he looked at me and said, no, that's all right. It's on us. And he patted me on the shoulder. He said, it's good karma for you. And I just smiled and said, thank you. And I thought, oh, Swamiji, you brought that word to America in 1893, and look where it's gone. It's gone to Costco. Yay, Vedanta. So karma means action. And thought, remember, thought is action too. Okay, so karma is thoughts and action. What makes us act? 100% of the time, it's desire. Maybe it's a subtle desire, but it is a desire. What happens to that karma is then called, the result of the karma is karma phala, the fruit or the result of that karma. Karma phala, P-H-A-L-A, literally means fruit. Fruit. The fruit of karma is the result of that action or thought. Two different things, one begets the other. So, it's important to remember that the results of our action, karma phala, always deal with experience. By that I mean, the results of our karma result either in joy or in sorrow. One of the two. Karma phala, the results of our karma always 100% comes through as our experience of either joy or sorrow or a combination thereof. For example, time, okay. I throw this through a window, I break a window. My thought, oh, let's have an example, my desire, prompts me to lift this, throw it through a window. The broken window, the broken clock, is the karma phala, the result of that karma. My karma did not propel me to pick up a clock and throw it through a window. That was my bad judgment. That is not karma. My decisions, both good and bad, are not my karma. That's my free will. There's a big distinction between my free will and the results of my action. Those are two different points there. And it's frequently misunderstood because people say, well, I guess it was my karma to hurt that person. It's like, no, it wasn't. It was your bad judgment, which created a bad action, which will bring to you some suffering in the future. Your karma phala, the result of your karma will be suffering. Every action, every thought that we do, our karma will result, our karma phala, in either joy or sorrow coming to us in either this life or in future lives, just as everything we experience now is the result of what we've done in the past. We cannot, that's another one I hear, we cannot say, oh, I guess my karma with that is finished. Oh, but no. But no. I frequently heard that. It's like, what makes you say that? Just because we finish an action does not mean that it is done. We don't know how this is going to play out in the future. What we can say, or the other one is like, it's like this was my karma to do that. No, it wasn't. That was your choice to do that. We can't erase karma. We can't undo karma. The action or thought that we have done is done. What we can do is change the balance of our karma. Because every act that I do, for example, when I throw this through the window there, that creates not only a physical action in the world, but a reaction in my own mind, or what they call a samskar, which makes it more likely for me to pick up and throw things and break more windows. So what I can try to do is make better decisions in the future so that I'm less likely to break windows, and also so that my good actions and thoughts outweigh my bad actions and thoughts. You can't erase them. That said, Vedanta also believes in the grace of God. That while we do not erase or undo these karmas, when we begin a serious spiritual life, as Sri Sarda Devi, Holy Mother, said, what would have been a cut-off arm will instead be a scratch. We can mitigate these karmas. We can mitigate the effects of these karmas, but we cannot erase them. They don't go away. They remain in the depths of our mind until we attain perfect freedom, perfect illumination. Otherwise, we go again and again around this birth and death, and birth and death. Another misconception is that there is a national karma. I've often heard, well, the karma of the U.S., it's like, no. Or the Kennedy, for example, the family karma. No. Karma is always individual. We're in this country now. Who knows if we were in this country before? Who knows where we were? We have a gender this time. We probably didn't have the gender last time. Who knows? We were in this family this time. Probably weren't in that family last time. Who knows? None of us know. But there's no such thing as a nation together experiencing a karma. It's always individual because we all have our individual desires, individual actions, individual thoughts, and the results of that. That's why it's always individual. My last and final misconception is, who are the people that you encounter here? When you run into people that live here, who are you encountering? Well, most of the time if you're seeing from here, with a notable exception of David Nelson here, with a notable exception of him, you're mostly seeing monks and nuns here, swamis and nuns, or swamis and pravrajikas. Not too long ago, one of our long-time members, who's been here over 40 years, came to me and said, "Why don't you have any female swamis here?" And I said to her, "You're looking at one?" And she said, "Well, I thought you were a nun." It's like, oh. See, this is the problem when we use terminology from the wrong tradition. We're not like nuns in the Catholic sense. We use nuns as shorthand because Pravrajika is so ridiculously long. In other orders, they're called Swami. Or in other orders, they're called Swamini. Or something else, but not Pravrajika. But that was Swami Vivekananda's idea. He thought it was a wonderful name. It actually means to go out. To go out and, into the world free. But, as it turns out, it's very long. What is a Swami? A Swami simply means a Hindu monk who's taken his final monastic vows, or sannyasa. What is Pravrajika? A female who's taken her final vows of monasticism. Our vows are non-dual. There's no gender in there whatsoever. We have exactly the same vows. We have exactly the same responsibility, exactly the same respect. What every monastic order sort of in the Hindu tradition is they're very, there's a great respect that is given to seniority. In other words, how long a person has been a monk. Whether you are male or female, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I'm white. It doesn't matter if I'm brown or black. It doesn't matter that I'm American. We have some fine Russian-born swamis. We have an Iraqi-born swami. It doesn't matter. This is just the mask that we're wearing. What matters is that spirit of renunciation and the spirit of joy and the spirit of service. So I encourage you to keep up your study of Vedanta in all its different ways, in all its different manifestations. And I encourage you to deepen that and to make it a real part of your daily life, because that is the way that has led so many people to joy and to freedom. Thank you. Please join me for the closing chant. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamataya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Filled with Brahman are the things we see, filled with Brahman are the things we see not. From out of Brahman flows all that is, from all flows Brahman, yet Brahman is still the same. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us all.